Well, hey, Facebook family, how are you guys today? I hope you're doing well. So, what I'm going to start doing, and this is the debut of it, is to do an after the podcast show. So, what I'll do is I'll walk through the highlights for you of what was talked about on the show so that you get a little bit more insight and then you can hop over and listen to the whole show when you have time. So, this is really cool. So, I just wrapped up episode 13 with Bryan Murphy. Bryan Murphy is a pastor, but this episode is not about faith or church. It is about his passion for helping leaders prevent burnout. But as we talked through the episode, it was very clear the ideas that he had and the strategies that he's using is not just for people that are in leadership. It's for your stay-at-home mom. And I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give you the spoiler because you got to listen to the show to get this. But there is a common thread of what happens to everybody that actually causes burnout. So it's not something that's just for the CEO in the boardroom. Isn't that cool? So you're going to find out what that is. But here's some really interesting things that we talked about. The difference between empathy and sympathy. And Bryan breaks that down, and he really unpacks how to be empathetic and sympathetic in the workplace. So if you work in leadership or in a corporate office, or maybe you even work in like a smaller office and you're wanting to foster strong relationships, but you don't want to cross personal boundaries, you'll really appreciate what Bryan has to say about that. The other thing that we talked about was how to add value to your relationships. Now, everybody knows that business is done on relationships. And pretty much, unless you live in a hole in the ground, you have relationships, right? So whether this is a relationship with your kids, with your significant other, your coworkers, extended family, or the community that you serve in, you'll really like what he has to say as well. I have a ton of notes. Look at this, you guys. Oh, you can't see because it's so bright. I have a whole sheet full of takeaways from that 35 minutes that I spent with Bryan. It is such a great episode. The next point that we talked about was how to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And he used the premise of, when you're on an airplane flying and the oxygen masks drop, how you're instructed, put your own on, right? Before you help the person sitting next to you. And really, you cannot pour into other people if you're depleted. This is something that when I was in corporate, I really liked talking about was, I would say, is your glass half full or half empty? And there was a bunch of different answers in the room. And I would say, I really like for my glass to be overflowing. And I like to keep it that way. Because if I'm not full, I can't serve my community. I can't pour into others, like my kids or my friends, right? So that's a really great piece of insight. Bryan talked about how to create a self-care routine. Routines are really, really important. I've noticed in my own life that the days that I don't have my normal morning routine, I feel off. So last weekend, I was in Atlanta for the Confidence Activated conference with Rachel Luna. It was a fantastic conference. But I had come from the West Coast to the East Coast. So that meant getting up and getting ready to be at a conference, getting breakfast and getting all prepared meant I would have to get up at like 4:30 my time. Okay, let me just tell you, I am so not a morning person, you guys. So that was not going to happen. And what did end up happening was that by the time I got home, I was so off my morning ritual of self-care that it took me a couple days to really get back to feeling like myself. So maybe you can relate to that. Drop me a comment because I want to know how you guys feel, like if this is resonating with you. And I also want to know how you like having the cliff notes to the show. I think it's of value. We also talked about meditation. Okay, you guys, shut the front door. Bryan, he's a pastor at a non-denominational Christian church. So you might think, oh, you talked about meditation, like a pastor that meditates, maybe that sounds woo-woo or it sounds wrong. Listen into the show, because the way that he explains it, you're not going to feel like it's weird. You're not going to feel like it's new age. It's not like that. It's not like some of the meditation practices that mean like you just dump everything out of your brain. It's not like that. It's more of how to get calm and still and to be centered. So that was really cool. He does make a really funny joke about a $15 therapist. So you'll have to, no spoiler, you're going to have to watch it for that. Then we talked about, again, what causes burnout for the stay-at-home mom all the way to the corporate world. Oh, you guys, this was so good. The importance of being purposeful. And this was his point. How to protect your inputs so your output is what you want it to be. I was like, stop the show. Like, the whole episode, seriously, is worth that. The way that he explains protecting your inputs. And again, no spoiler, I can't tell you what he says. I know you guys think I'm teasing you, but it's pretty true. Let's see. Oh, how to find your passion. He talks about how to find your passion in a really different way than I've heard anybody else talk about finding your passion so that you are living in purpose. That's really, really cool. So it's episode 13 with Bryan Murphy. And of course, down below here, I will have the direct link to the episode he's on. And in case you guys have missed it, the podcast is called Living a Limitless Life. It's a lot of L's. It's kind of a fun tongue twister. Episode 13. So if you find value, I would really appreciate it if you would share the episode out or even share this video and subscribe, leave a review. That's such a big thing in the podcast world, is that we need reviews so that other people can find us. If you guys have any questions, any comments, I'm always wanting to hear from you. You guys really make my day. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.